Well, it has a lot, and it has a lot of capability. But as I understand it, in about a month or so, they're going to send it to have it be maxed out. So they're going to be sending it, and they'll have it be maxed out. It'll take about a month.
It has a lot of capability. I press the button, the seats lay flat. Even Donald Trump there had to publicly concede that his Qatari gifted palace in the sky, as he calls it, was lacking in the vital security features and still needed to be, quote, maxed out before he could use it safely. That was last month after a bombshell report in the New York Times about concerns over the president's safety on that aircraft, which lawmakers have been demanding the White House disclose. We also learned that during the NATO summit in July, Trump even swapped it out the gifted jet for his old Air Force One because it lacked those necessary military defenses before fleeing that second plane in a catering container under threat from Iran to a third aircraft. But this is the Trump administration where retribution for perceived criticism takes precedence over even non-deniable truth and reality. First, Trump's Justice Department went after the New York Times reporters on that reporting with subpoenas, which the DOJ eventually withdrew. Then on Friday, the Pentagon revoked the security clearances of former Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall, claiming he had disclosed sensitive information in that Times story. Secretary Kendall says he plans to sue the administration because his on-the-record quotes reveal nothing that wasn't already inherently obvious about the lack of time needed to make Air Force One level security modifications to a jet being used as Air Force One. I want to bring in former Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall. He's now a senior fellow for the Center for American Progress, and his new book, Lethal Autonomy, The Future of Warfare, Whether We Like It or Not, is out now. Also joining our coverage, military analyst, retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He served as the commanding general of the U.S. Army in Europe. Secretary Kendall, first, your reaction to being stripped of your security clearances after this, in my opinion, rather innocuous quote in the New York Times story.
Nicole, thanks. But compared to a lot of the other things that injustices, I guess, by this administration, it's a pretty minor thing. But it is without any merit, and I have the opportunity to do something about it. My mother taught me a long time ago you should push back at bullies, and this is kind of bullying behavior we're seeing from this administration all over the place. So I'm going to push back. I've never said anything classified. There were some leakers who apparently did say something that are classified to the New York Times. I'm not one of those people. My guess here is that they went looking for those people, couldn't find them. They had my name, and it was convenient. I've criticized the administration, very vocally and very publicly ever since I left office. So it was a way to get a scalp, I guess, for the White House and make a point to people who want to speak out against the administration. So anyway, we're going to go to court over this, and I'm pretty confident we're going to win.
I was going to ask you something that you started to address there, which is, do you think they stripped you of your security clearances because you've been a critic of Trump administration policies? Do you have any suggestion or indication from anyone involved in this that was the case?
Nobody's ever spoken to me at all about this. The only thing I've heard is the tweet that came out that announced that the revocation of my clearance. I did get an email the next day from an organization I was a consultant to do some classified work, telling me that they've been told that my clearance had been revoked, and that's it. That's all I've heard. So I'm speculating. The two obvious speculations again are that they needed somebody. There's a lot of pressure, I think, coming from the White House to get the leakers. They couldn't do that, so they came for me. And also, of course, it sends a message to everybody who speaks out against this administration. I'm in pretty good company here. Senator Kelly, for example, they've gone after him. There are a number of other people. My attorney, Mark Zaid, has also had his security clearance revoked. And I spoke to some people today, in fact, who, because of their DEI activities, a retired general had his clearance revoked. So this is a pretty common tool, apparently, this administration is using. There are over 100 people this has happened to, all as far as I can tell, without any merit.
And now that you see the story develop to what the Washington Post and the New York Times reported at the beginning of the week, that the story that you're quoted in isn't the full story at all, that Donald Trump actually left Turkey on a third aircraft after hiding inside a catering truck with Walt Nauta, who's his personal valet, and a woman described by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan as basically printing out positive feedback about Donald Trump on social media. What is your sense about what they were so agitated by in that story you're quoted in?
I don't know. I think somebody apparently said something about having less defensive measures on the new airplane, the gift that he got from Qatar. And then, of course, the story that you just related came out about shifting airplanes and in the catering vehicle and so on. Look, I don't know what's on the Qatari airplane or not on it. It came in after I left the Air Force. I don't know what happened that triggered this, if it's true, series of events. Apparently it is. The most bizarre thing about this to me is that the president left a great many people on Air Force One subject to whatever risk he was trying to avoid without telling any of them or doing anything about it. And that's disturbing.
Yeah, General Hertling, your thoughts with all of the new information we have as of this afternoon?
Yeah, well, first I'll comment on the secretary's instance because, truthfully, I read the article in the New York Times. There was no classified leakage. And in fact, if they go after him, I would say they ought to go after Netflix, because you can watch a documentary on Air Force One on Netflix and kind of get more of the same in terms of what it has versus what a normal 747 has. So it's just ludicrous that these kind of things are occurring. And my thought, truthfully, is people like the secretary, who provide consulting advice to defense contractors, are very critical because they give an inside look on what's happening in the military, and it helps others, private corporations, to contribute to the U.S. military in various ways. Truthfully, Nicole, I asked for my clearance to be removed once I retired because I didn't want to be approached by defense contractors. I wanted to do something else when I left the military. But, I would see the secretary as a patriot more than anything else when he's talking about the comments that relate to what Air Force One has and how it has to protect the president in all ways, and not only protect him, but also have an airborne command post, which requires an awful lot of equipment. And I don't believe the Qatari jet, again, I don't know what the Qatari jet has, but I don't think you can turn a 747 into an aerial command post in just a few weeks like they had it.